Hello and welcome back to Novels with Nora. Today we are getting comfy, we are getting cozy because this is the start of a 24-hour readathon. Yes, however, I'm gonna preface this with I will not be staying up for 24 hours straight. I absolutely will not be doing that. It is currently 2:17 on a Sunday, and what I'm going to do instead of staying up for 24 hours, I'm going to set a timer on my iPad because I film on my phone for 24 hours, and every time I read I will start the timer, and when I'm done reading I will stop the timer, and during that time we are going to see how much I can get read, because I would love to do like a legit 24-hour readathon. Oh my god, the ice cream truck. But I simply do not have the capacity or the capabilities of staying up for 24 hours straight and not turning into a creature, you know, a truly disastrous plan that would be, because I need my sleep. Otherwise I turn into a creature. Truly is like the best word. If you stay up that late, you're gonna be exhausted. Are you really comprehending the words that you're reading? Right. So I'll be doing it that way, where I will just set a timer for 24 hours and read until that timer is up, obviously stopping in between for things that I need to do in my life, right? Because I simply cannot dedicate 24 hours straight to just reading. But I will be reading for 24 hours, just not straight. Little asterisk there. And in this vlog, I do have a slight little TBR of things that I'm hoping to get to, mainly because I do have a lot of things out from the library that are due soon and do need to be returned. So starting with something that I've already started reading, Hold Eternity by S.A. Barnes. I only have about like 90 pages left, so I'm like pretty far in, but this one is due tomorrow, so I do need to finish this. And you know, I'll tell you more about my thoughts once I finish it, but suffice it to say, this is not a 5-star. And then after that, I have 3 more things that I have the audiobooks for. So I can read any of these, or I can read any of the other things that I have out from the library, but because I have the audiobooks for these through Libby, I want to get to these before my hold on the audiobooks run out. So we have A Dark and Drowning Tide by Allison Saft. We have Lucy Undying by Kirsten White. And then we have The Center by Aisha Manazir Siddiqui. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. And these are all 3 things that I do have the audiobooks for, so we'll probably be prioritizing these 3 once I finish this one. So these are the things maybe that you can expect me to read in this vlog, because again, I might decide that I want something a little bit lighter, because all of these are kind of like darker novels, so I might decide I want something a little bit lighter, a little bit more happy, and so I might pick up something else. But that all hinges on me finishing Cold Eternity. Since I will not actually be reading for 24 hours straight, I'm really curious to see how long it'll take me to get to the 24 hours, especially just like combining it with all of my like regular goings on in my life, because tomorrow I start 2 new classes for grad school. However, because it's like the first week, it's just kind of like the introductory stuff, so I don't expect there to be too much to do. But I think this is also a good way for me to prioritize reading and deprioritize scrolling on my phone for hours. So I'm actually really interested in seeing how much I end up getting read and how long it takes me to reach the 24 hours. So I have, again, because I film on my phone, I have to do the timer on my iPad. I can also set it on my phone, but I just can't show it to you because I film on the phone. Right. So I am going to get started with Cold Eternity and start my timer. And I've watched a few of these 24-hour reading vlogs, and sometimes people will start the timer and then sit down, open the book, go through all of like those introductory pages and then start reading, and I'm like, I'm not going to say you're a cheater. I am, however, going to say that you're not doing this the most scientifically accurate that you could be, because you should really open it to the page that you're ready to start on, take out your bookmark, and then start the timer. So that's how I'll be going about this, because I'm genuinely curious to see what the results are. I think that in these 24 hours, I will for sure be able to finish this and get through 1.5 other books, 2 books. I'm not sure, especially because Lucy Undying is like, she's thick. How many pages is this? Over 400. It is 446 pages. So because it's so long, curious to see truly how much I'll be able to get read, but I will be starting with finishing this. And I feel like because I'm already into it, it won't take me too long, because we're really like wrapping up what's happening here. So I'm going to get started with this and start my timer. So let me, and press start. I changed location so I could have some back support while I read, because while the other clip was cutie and fun for the intro, I need to actually be comfortable while I read, and I did pause the timer. So now we are at 23:57:21. still lots of time to go, obviously. So I'm just going to start it again and get back to reading in a much comfier position where I feel like I can actually focus. So I will go ahead and, can you see it? First book of our 24-hour readathon is finished, and we are at 22, 48, 50. Woo! So I actually read for quite a bit of time. You'll have to excuse me. My math, horrible. Math skills, non-existent. So I'm not going to be doing the math to figure out how long I was reading for. It's now 3:35, and I started a little bit before 2:30. So about an hour of reading, right? Sure. So about an hour of reading, and I have finished Cold Eternity by S.A. Barnes, and I'm feeling like this is a 3-star read. So the premise of this is we have our main character, Hallie / Katerina, and she is running from things that have happened in her past, and she ends up taking this really sketchy job aboard this Elysian Fields ship that had been used as this hospital-like ship for people who were dying. They could go on board and get cryogenically frozen in the hopes that in the future some kind of technology would be available that would help heal them. However, it did not end up working, and the ship ended up getting turned into a museum for people to go and see what was going on here. And the genius of the time of Zale Winfeld, the man who created the ship, she ends up taking a job back on board of this ship to be the caretaker for it, but it's very sketchy, very off the books type thing. And once she gets on board, she realizes that things are not at all what they seem, and she is dealing with some kind of creature also on board. And the concept was interesting. The execution, not super great. So my history with S.A. Barnes is that her first novel, Dead Silence, is one of my all-time favorite books. I absolutely love that book. And then she released Ghost Station, and I was so excited to pick it up, and I didn't like it. And so when this one came out, I bought, pre-ordered both of those two. When this one came out, I knew not to pre-order it just because of, past experience. So I got this one from the library, and I was right to do that because while I enjoyed it more than Ghost Station, it does not at all compare to Dead Silence. Part of what I love about Dead Silence so much is it's slow and creepy and eerie throughout the whole thing. There's this slow, creepy, eerie buildup to the end, where this is it's a little off-putting at times, but it's kind of just it's she's alone on the ship with all of these cryogenically frozen half-dead people. Of course it's gonna be a little creepy, but there wasn't ever anything where I was ooh, I'm feeling it, until those last 90 pages that I read. Then it was oh, so that's what we're doing. And what it did, I didn't love. It took a turn that I was okay. And I don't want to say too much more than that because it would be a spoiler, because you really don't learn what's happening until the last 150-ish pages. But those are the only part, those last 150 pages were the only part that I actually enjoyed. And even then I was kind of really? It's definitely horror, but it doesn't feel scary, if that makes sense. I don't know. It just feels lackluster, I guess. What I love so much about Dead Silence was how eerie it felt throughout the whole thing. I was on edge through that entire book. This, I didn't really care. I was if she dies in the end, I'd be okay with that. I wouldn't not care. Where the main characters, because in Dead Silence, more of a cast of characters, and I loved seeing them interact, and as they were getting picked off, it was you felt it. Where here, I didn't love our main character, and everything that was happening in her past, I was just I don't care. It does not seem that big of a deal. I know I'm supposed to care about her, but I don't. And she spent just so much time ruminating on her past, and I was we either need to lay out in clear terms what actually happened or just move on, and we didn't do either of those things. So it just felt a little really that's it. We were told what happened and why she's doing the things she's doing, but I didn't care about those things. And then the actual horror at the end, I was I'm not afraid. It just feels weird. I didn't like it. Now the messaging of this being people will believe what they want to believe and what they need to believe, and people will support people because of what they're saying because they want to believe in that person rather than them actually being good people. Yeah, fits with what we've got going on now. But the actual story, didn't care for. The writing was good. The plot just fell flat for me. So that's Cold Eternity. It was disappointing. I will not be purchasing a copy. It was fine. But I also think when you're writing a novel where there's really only your main character because she's in this isolated situation, you really have to get people attached to her, and that just didn't happen for me. So this was kind of a flop. 3 stars. 3 stars for me, because like it was fine. I enjoyed parts of it. I enjoyed the writing. It just, you know. If you're looking for space horror, I don't know that it would be the first thing I recommend. It would be Dead Silence for sure. I love that book. But I would definitely like mention it because, you know, it is got the space horror element. It's just not quite as scary as I want. Like, you'll want to read this one with the lights on, says Katie Robert. First of all, why is Katie Robert? Anyway, no, I was like never scared reading this. So there's that. We read for about an hour and now I'm hungry. So I'm going to get some lunch, and I'm not going to be reading during lunch because this is a 24-hour reading challenge. And the way that I'm doing it, where I will be setting the timer while I read, I can eat without reading, especially because I want to go spend time with my family. So I am going to eat and then pick our next book and start the timer up again. Hey. It's the next day. I ended up not reading anything else yesterday. I finished that book, and like it was just so disappointing that it kind of just put me, I don't want to say a slump because that's definitely not what it was, but it definitely put me like in a mood. Like I didn't want to pick anything else up. Also, it was Mother's Day, so I was spending time with my mom. Didn't end up reading. And I feel like for a 24-hour challenge, a lot of creators, like they read for the 24 hours. For me, it's more to see how long it takes me to read for the 24 hours, right? Because I still will be reading for 24 hours, just not like 24 hours straight. You see what I'm saying? Because I have other things that go on in my life, and I can't just like put everything off to read for those 24 hours. So I think that's like a good example of I wasn't in the mood to read, so I didn't force myself to read. Because I think when you force yourself to read, you end up not enjoying what you're reading because you don't want to be reading. Anyway, tangent over. I have decided that my next read is going to be The Center, and I will be starting this today. And also, it's like really nice outside, so I might want to read outside a little bit today. We'll have to see. Every day where I'm like, oh, I kind of want to read outside, it then ends up getting, like, the weather ends up getting bad later in the day, so we'll see what happens. But I am now going to start The Center, and I think I'm going to listen to the audiobook for this because I have the audiobook and I really like audiobooks. For some reason, I always feel the need to justify why I'm listening to an audiobook. I want to. That's all the reason I need. So going to get all set up with this and the audiobook, and then I will start my timer. I read the first 2 chapters. First of all, this book only has 12 chapters, so I read the first 3 chapters. Okay, so I'm on chapter 4, which is page 67. So that's really something. I usually prefer books with short chapters just because I feel like then you like get through it faster because it's like you're not, I don't know, I just feel like short chapters are really conducive to like flying through a book. However, this one has like really long chapters, but the way it's written, oh, I'm flying through it. Like I'm really enjoying the writing style. It's like she's the main character, Anissa, is like telling the reader like what happened and like how everything went, because it's like at one point she says, completely unaware of the true nature of what I signed up for, I waited impatiently for their call. So it's like she's reflecting on the experience and like telling the reader what happened while also like already knowing what happened. So the way that it's written is really engaging. But I don't know that I ever told you what this is about. This follows our main character, Anissa, a Pakistani woman, and she lives in London. She wants to be like a great translator, but right now she's just working like subtitling Bollywood films, and she like kind of enjoys the work that she's doing, but it's not like what she wants to be doing. And then she starts dating this guy, Adam. Boo, don't like Adam. And he speaks fluently several languages, like a whole bunch of languages, and like speaks them fluently. And then one day she's taking him home to meet her family in Pakistan, and he shows up speaking fluent Urdu, and she's like, you did not know how to speak that yesterday. Like I tried for 6 months to teach you and you got nothing, and now all of a sudden you speak fluent. And he's like, here's what's actually happening. And he tells her about the center, this place where you pay $20,000 and you go, and for 10 days you're there completely isolated, but you come back being able to fluently speak a language. So now at this point in the story, she's going to the center to learn German so that she can be like a great translator. And based on that quote I just read you, we know that the center is not quite what it is posing itself as, because they're like, you can't tell anyone about this. I mean, first of all, it's that expensive. You're there for 10 days and it's like this very like isolating experience, and it like takes this toll on your body, but she's not told what the toll actually is. So really fascinating. And again, I'm only on chapter 4 and we're already to the point where she's like done like the preliminary interview to go to the center. So I'm really enjoying it, and the writing style is like so interesting. Like I'm just really loving it. I feel like I haven't read something that's written like this before. Like I don't even really know how to explain it, but it's like truly she is just like narrating her experience to the reader, and I'm really enjoying that. But I'm also listening to the audiobook and I'm loving the narrator. I don't know who the narrator is, and I don't know that I've ever read a book narrated by her before, but I'm absolutely loving it. All of the characters minus Adam are like funny and like relatable in a way. Like I'm just really loving Anissa as a character. And when she had taken Adam home to Pakistan, she was talking about how like Adam is like getting this like amazing treatment, and he thinks it's just like that the Pakistani people are like so welcoming to foreigners, and she's like, no, it's because you're white. And how like there's like the internalized colonialism of these people, and like just the conversations that are being had. But it's not like she's sitting down and saying the internalized colonialism is what's making you get this treatment. It's like it's just her internal thoughts, and how sometimes she like feels bad for thinking those things, but like it's just her genuine thoughts, and I'm really enjoying it. And the audiobook is also really fantastic. But I have now 22 hours, 1 minute, and 45 seconds. So I came to a realization. I think part of the reason that a lot of people do the 24-hour reading challenge, truly just like 24 hours straight of reading, is because they don't always read for those full 24 hours. You know, like they take a break to like eat, do whatever, get a little bit of sleep. This, I'm truly reading for 24 hours. This is going to take me longer than I thought it would, but good news. Remember how I had said that today was supposed to be the start of my summer classes, and guess what? It wasn't. So I woke up this morning ready to start my new classes, get on my academic grind. Yeah, they don't start till next week. So I'm not sure how I got that wrong. I think it's because the semester technically starts today, but like the session that my courses are in doesn't start until next week. So I now have a whole week completely to myself to do whatever I want. And so this reading challenge is going to be taking up all my time, but that's where we're at with the center. I still have 22 hours left to go, so which means I've only read for 2 hours. We're gonna be here forever. But anyway, I also think that what I'm going to do is, even if I'm just listening to the audiobook and like doing other things, to me that's still reading. So I will also count that time, because I think I'm going to cut up some vegetables today, because I'm gonna make stew tomorrow. And so I'm going to cut the vegetables today, and I think I might listen to the audiobook while I do that. And so I'll still count that time because I'm still reading, because listening to audiobooks is reading. Right. And also, yes, I'm in my pajamas. I'm probably going to be in my pajamas for this entire vlog, because guess what? I'm not going anywhere. Why would I change out of my pajamas? You know? So I want to be comfortable while I sit here in my home. If you've got a problem with that, like, I'm sorry, but also I'm not sorry, because like, wouldn't you do the same thing? Right. So I think I'm actually just going to keep reading. Normally, once I've read like a decent amount, because I've read 66 pages, then I'm like, okay, yeah, like I want to do something else, like, you know, like watch YouTube or something. But this, I'm enjoying it so much, especially now that she's like going to be going to the center next, like coming up soon. So I'm really into this one. So I'm going to just keep reading, actually. Also, the cover, the skull with the flowers coming out of it, was actually like in the book. When she went into like the receptionist's office for her interview to get into the center, they had this like on the desk, and I was like, that's an interesting little tidbit. So I'm really excited. I think this is also this author's first book, but she has published short stories, reviews, translations, essays, monologues, and poetry. And it's like she's very clear. It even says she's from Karachi and lives in London, which is exactly what this main character did. So it feels like she's writing from her own experience, and like the conversations we're getting about translation and how she's translating this one, well, she's like subtitling this one film at the moment, and it relies really heavily on like incredibly racist stereotypes. And so she was talking to her mom, and she was like, I wish that I could add like a translator's note at the end to say like, I don't agree with this film, and like these are the stereotypes that are being perpetrated here. But she can't do that, so she's like, I feel complicit in perpetrating these stereotypes. And I just think that's really interesting in how translation, I read Babel last year, and so I'm just keep thinking translation is always an act of betrayal. And I think that these two books, translation, or Babel and The Center, kind of go hand in hand a little bit. So I'm really curious to see how learning another language through The Center changes Anissa's perceptions of being a translator, because like even Adam, who has clearly learned several languages through the center, says that he doesn't feel like he's really earned anything, and like all of his success doesn't feel like his, and he doesn't even feel truly like himself. And it's like, yeah, because you didn't work for anything, right? Because it was all just kind of transposed onto you. So I'm really curious to see if those same things overtake Anissa. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this, and I really am liking the conversations that are being had here. Also, again, the book has really long chapters, but also these pages are really thick. So like the actual physical reading experience is quite interesting. So having a great time with this, actually. And it's like one of those things where it's like I thought I would enjoy it, but I thought it might be like a little too weird or experimental for me. But I'm enjoying this so much more than I thought I would. So, and I picked this one up on a whim because I just saw it like on the end of a shelf at my library, and I said, oh yeah, I've heard about it, I'll check it out. And I'm really enjoying it. So really excited to just keep going with it. Okay, if you saw my reaction there towards the end, it is a spoiler, so I can't obviously tell you what exactly it was, but when I said it felt like she was just like dictating the story to us. If you've read this, you know. And so I think listening to the audiobook with it really made it like that much better, because that's kind of how the story like is told. I really liked it. It's a book that has like an ambiguous ending. Like there's no like definitive, this is how the story ends. And it even ends with it being like, and we sit and we talk and we like come up with new plans for our lives. So clearly very ambiguous ending, but like I really like this. I don't know if it's gonna be a 5-star. I feel like this isn't gonna be thinking about for a long time, but like, oh my god, the twists that this took. And it wasn't even so much like it was like big reveals that it was like, oh wow, like, plot twist. It was more just like the slow uncovering of things that I absolutely ate up. I had a really great time with this. I read it all today. And to be fair, it's only like 270 pages, but still, I really like this. I now have, let's see how much longer we have left on our timer. 19 hours, 22 minutes, and 22 seconds. So I've been reading for about 4 hours. This is making me realize this is gonna take so much longer than I thought it was going to. I see now why people do like just like the 24 hours just reading, because reading for 24 hours, I read maybe like 2 to 3 hours a day, sometimes 4 or 5 if I'm feeling crazy. It's gonna take me forever, but anyway, I really enjoyed this. Like this was really good, and for something that I picked up on a whim, I ate that up. I really did. Also, I think that if you listen to the audiobook, I think the acknowledgements at the end are actually read by the author, so that was really fun. So I really love this. It also does seem to be obviously not fully based on the author's life, but the author has a cat named Billy, like the character, so I feel like there's a lot of things that are similar between the main character and the author, and I really enjoyed that because I feel like it adds a sense of reality to an otherwise slightly outlandish story. But I really liked this, just the way so many different things are infused into here. Like I don't want to say too much because it's like what you need to know is there's this center where you go and you can learn language, but it's like crazy how fast and how well it works. That's all really you need to know, because anything more than that is going to be a spoiler. But I absolutely love this. It was so wonderful. I am going to take some time to ponder my thoughts and then get back to you probably tomorrow with my rating of this and then what I start next, because I don't plan on reading anything else today, which is also probably why this is going to take me so long to get through these 24 hours. But I don't want to like force myself to read when I'm not feeling it. Usually after I finish a book, I like to like sit with that book for at least a few hours to really like collect my thoughts, because I feel like if I jump right into the next thing, I'm not giving what I just finished its due, you know? So I really, really love this though. If it's not a 5, it's definitely gonna be like a 4, 4.5. But I'll reflect, think about it. I always love reading reviews after I finish a book just to hear other people's perspectives, and this is one where I really want to hear other people's perspectives. So I'll be reading some reviews, and then that's probably really all you'll hear from me tonight, because I do not plan on reading anything else tonight, especially because I want to sit with this for the rest of the evening and a little bit into tomorrow. But because I don't have class this week, evidently, I will definitely be reading a lot more tomorrow. So I'll catch you then. Hello and happy Tuesday. Last night I did end up starting a new book, but before that, my rating for the center is in fact a 5-star. I really enjoyed this, and like as I was falling asleep last night, I kept thinking about it and I was like, oh, that was a good book. I really enjoyed it. And also, there was a part in here where she was talking to her one friend and she was like, I don't like when books get too meta. And she was like, right. This book, incredibly meta, because again, I'm not going to spoil anything, but very meta. I really enjoyed it. It's a 5-star. Yeah, for sure. So last night, I really just wanted to watch YouTube, but there was nothing that I wanted to watch, nothing striking my fancy. So I ended up reading like the first 20 pages of Lucy Undying, and I really enjoyed it. And then this morning, I think I mentioned yesterday that I was making stew today. So I had to cut up the potatoes and then like put everything together. So I listened to the audiobook while I was doing that, and I am now on page 88. And I just started last night, and that means, let's check how much time we have left. 18 hours, pretty much. 17 hours, 55 minutes, and 43 seconds. So I'm hoping to get this down to 17, maybe even 16 hours today, but we'll have to see. But for Lucy Undying, I'm really enjoying this. I have heard a lot about this book, mainly people being like, it was fine, like I enjoyed it, but like it wasn't anything great. I'm really liking it. Like, I'm having a really great time. So we follow technically 2 POVs, but occasionally a third. And I guess technically you could even consider it 4. But so we start with a POV from Dracula. Also, look how pretty this is. Yeah. So we start with a POV from Dracula in Salt Lake City in 2025. And then that's a very short chapter. The chapters in here are very short. And then we also have Iris, who's in 2024 in London. And she is like running from her past. I think she killed her mom. And she's like running from her past and like trying to make money to like survive and like avoid the people from her past, because her mom was like maybe in a cult, got some freaky things going on with blood. But then we're also following Lucy, and we're seeing both in 1890 her journal article, like her journal entries, and then also in Boston of 2024 we're getting client transcripts of her talking to this therapist. And so we're getting her like telling us her life story through like the eyes of this therapist. And then we're also getting her journal entries from like while it was happening. So that's super interesting. And then Iris's perspective, also interesting. And it seems like Iris has met Lucy, but it also seems like Iris and Lucy's paths are like very intertwined, because Iris she's like inheriting this house because her mom died, and she finds Lucy's journals, like her diaries, in the house. So we're kind of led to believe that this is the house where Lucy grew up. But then also we meet this other character, Elle, who is like being here, and she's like a historian of this time period and of this house. So right. But I'm really enjoying it. I did listen to the audiobook while I was like chopping my potatoes and putting my stew together, and I don't love the audiobook. I will say it is 2 different narrators for Iris and Lucy, and then there's also a third narrator for Dracula, even though we only had like one super tiny part of his. But I'm really enjoying it so far, because it's a vampire story, but these vampires are like very different. Like they're also shapeshifters. Like Lucy can like take the form of like moonlight and like mist, and she can also like shapeshift into any like human form that she wants, but also different animals, which is super interesting. So I'm really enjoying like the vampire lore that we're getting. But also Lucy, she is just a poor queer woman living in England in the 1890s, and so she is just suffering, and she's just feeling very like isolated and different, like there's something wrong with her. But I'm really enjoying this. It's a very long book, and it seems like it spans a lot of time, so I'm interested to keep going. But also just like look at the cover. It's kind of hard to tell with like the plasticky part, but her hair is taking the shape of like all of these like wolves, and then there's bats down here, and she's got like the blood on her neck. I'm really enjoying it. I don't know if something will change, but I really like it. Now, here's the tea. I'm typically more of a werewolf girly than a vampire girly. I just think that werewolves are so interesting and like so underutilized in media, because like we have so much media about vampires but not as much about werewolves, and I think that like they deserve better. I'm gonna be honest with you. But I'm really enjoying the vampire lore in there. I'm trying not to talk too much about each of these books like while I'm reading them, because I'm probably gonna be reading a lot in this vlog because I have to read for so long to get the full 24 hours. So I'm trying not to like say too much and like go too in depth, but I'm a yapper at heart, you know, I really am. But we have like 18 hours left. So we'll see how this goes. I'm really hoping to get it down to 16 hours today because I feel like that's manageable, you know. Also, this is like a really long book, and again, the chapters are so short. Like I thought maybe they'd get longer, and like they are a little bit as like the plot is unfolding, but at most they're like 7-8 pages per chapter, and I'm really loving that. I really do feel like short chapters really just contribute to a feeling of like flying through it because you're getting through the chapter so quickly. So really enjoying this. Absolutely 8 up the center, 5 stars. I do want to purchase myself a copy so I can annotate it, but for now, that's that. Good evening. That felt fitting given that I'm reading a vampire book, right? So, Lucy Undying. I'm really liking it. I am now on page 245, so a little over halfway through, and I'm really enjoying it. Because it has like the 3 different timelines, I guess, it's written in like chunks of 3 chapters, so it'll be like an Iris chapter, a Lucy journal chapter, and then the like client transcript chapter, always clumped in those 3. So it's like you're reading it and you're getting 3 different stories, and by the time you finish one, you're like, oh well, I need to read the next 2 to get back to this, but then you read those 2 and you're like, oh well, I want to read that too. So it's really hard to stop, especially because the chapters are so short. It's like, well, I can just read another one, I can just read another set of 3, like it won't take that long. And I will say the chapters have gotten longer as we've gotten more into the plot, but they're still very short. So it's like, oh well, I can just keep going, and that's how I've managed to read as much as I have. Also, I was working on my reading journal, and so I listened to the audiobook while I was doing that. But that means that we are doing real good on our timing because we only have 15 hours, 43 minutes, and 16 seconds left. I would say we're doing pretty good because that means I read about like 4-ish hours today, and I feel like I might be able to do that again tomorrow, hopefully. And because I really want to finish this too. I'm like a little over halfway. So I feel like I'll definitely be able to, probably finish it, because I was like, I might not be able to finish it. But if I get close enough, I'm just going to want to even like stay up and read it. So I'll probably be finishing this tomorrow, which is very exciting because I'm really eating it up. But that is my update for tonight. Again, I'm trying to keep these updates short so that this video is not like 2 hours long. But that's my update for tonight. We have like a little under 16 hours to go. Saying that out loud is crazy, but we can do it. We can do it. We made it this far. So I'm going to go to sleep, get rested up for tomorrow, and get back at it. Okay, that is our second full book and third partial book, I guess, of the 24-hour challenge complete. I have finished Lucy Undying. I think that this is going to be either a 4 or a 4.5 star for me because like I really loved a lot of it, but the vampiric MLM pyramid scheme aspect was crazy, and like it didn't come out of left field, but it still felt insane. So that was really something. And I read the reviews of this before I picked it up, and a lot of people were like, it was just so boring, like I don't know why you would write this, like there's no point. And reading it, I can like kind of see why you would think that a little bit maybe, but at the same time we have 3 very distinct stories happening, especially in the beginning, but you can already tell that they're all going to end up weaving together. So I don't actually agree with that point. If you think it's boring, I think you just aren't a fan of like narrative storytelling like this, which is totally fine. Like not every book is for every reader. Yes, that's right. But this was for me. I really love when stories are told like this, and I really did enjoy it. It's not a 5 star, I can tell you that, but I did really like it. Yeah, I really liked it. Like I think it was a fun new exploration of the vampire genre, and definitely I have not read Dracula, so I don't know how true to the original story this is. I do plan on getting to it eventually, but I really enjoyed this. I loved Lucy as a vampire and how she struggles for so long of like what is keeping her going, because when you live that long you need to have something that like propels you through life, and for the longest time it was Mina, and then when she finally realized that that's not the case, like how that shifts her entire world pretty much. So I really enjoyed like the talks of mortality in here and immortality, because it's done in a very interesting way, and I think I mentioned it before, but I really love the vampire lore that's in here, because like Lucy can shapeshift into like moonlight and mist, and like the other vampires can like shift into different animals, and it was really interesting to read that aspect. And I really liked a lot of it. I liked how the different vampires all had different motivations for what they were doing and different desires for their long lives, and I really liked that. I also really liked Iris as a main character, because she's so cynical of everything, because she's had to be, but she eventually like comes around and learns to love and accept love, and I really enjoyed that. And I like that she was right, like the whole time she was right, and I did really enjoy that. So really enjoyed this. I think it's gonna be a 4.5 for sure. There were just some things that I was like, this feels tonally off for the story. And then also Iris's dad is a character in the story, but for like the whole middle chunk he's just gone, and then he just like conveniently pops back in at the end, and I was like, all right. So that's that. However, I do know that that put us real good on our time here. We are now 13 hours pretty much, 12:55:06. So that is really good. I'm really happy with that. Soon we will be into the single digits. This is taking so much longer than I thought it was going to. Again, I see why people do it for just like the 24 hours straight, because good lord, this is taking forever. So that's already 2 full books plus the last 90 pages of that first book that I wrote. So we're gonna be here for a while. I hope you're comfy. I hope you have a snack. And if you don't have a snack by now, get one. Get one, girly, because we still have 13 hours to go. So I don't know if that's, I'll probably end up picking up A Dark and Drowning Tide tonight, just because I feel like I'm gonna want something to read tonight. But that is the end of Lucy Undying. I really like that. It was very long, but it didn't feel like it, because those chunks, 3 chapters, were really helpful. And then also towards the end, we got like some new perspectives, and Dracula started popping up more. Really enjoyed that. I will say the audiobook is a very wonderful option, because each character has their own narrator, so that really helps. And then there's different like formats of things, so there's different like client transcripts from like Lucy talking to her therapist, and then like letters and just like things like that that are really added to by the audiobook. So would recommend the audiobook, and would recommend the book if you like kind of a slower moving character driven story, and vampires and sapphic vampires. Yeah, so that's the end of that. We are now officially at 13 hours, which feels good, which means we've read for over 10 hours already. We've read for 11 hours. And that was with only 2 and like a little bit of a book. So 2.5 more books and we should be good. That's right, Chiro. 2.5 more books. He's not read a single page. Okay, so that is all for now. I will update you again probably tomorrow once I have more to say about A Dark and Drowning Tide, because that will be my next read. Good evening once again. It is Thursday. I have really cut us down to like once a day updates, mainly because I feel like I haven't had as much to say about this book, and also, again, we've been here for a long time. So today I started A Dark and Drowning Tide by Alison Saft, and I am on page 217, which is right at part 3. So I'm really having a very good time with this. We follow Lorelai and Sylvia, and they both go to this school to like learn about like different things. I'm not entirely sure what it is that they're actually studying, but I don't think you really need to be sure. But they're going on this expedition with their mentor. They each have a different role on the expedition. Lorelai is like the co-lead, and Sylvia is like the naturalist, folklore person who knows about all of like the creatures that they might encounter. So they're going on this expedition, but the very first night their mentor gets killed, And so they realized that like someone who's on this trip with them had to have killed her, and she was killed with magic. And the magic system in this book is very fascinating because it's like there's this aether in the water that like people can like call on and like use it, and it's like it ties into everything. And their journey is to find this like magical stream that is like the source of all of the aether, so all of the magic. And they're being sent on this quest by the king, but he has like some questionable morals about sending them on this, and every person here has like doing it for their own gain and like has their own motivations for being there. And so like everyone's a suspect. And Lorelai and Sylvia are like, they hate each other. Well, Sylvia is just like, she doesn't know why Lorelai hates her, but Lorelai hates her because she sees her as like having everything handed to her because of her family and her status, where Lorelai had to like build herself up from nothing pretty much because she comes from like a type of people that have been like severely outcast and are seen as like monsters to everyone else. So I'm really liking the world building in the magic system. It's quite complex, and I'm really glad I'm listening to the audiobook because there's a lot of, I'm not sure if this pulls from like a specific type of mythology. I don't know if there's like an author's note that explains it. I'm really very interested in looking into what kind of mythology, or if any, this pulls from, because it's very interesting. And like the words that it uses and like the language is very fascinating and not something I've ever read before. So I'm really enjoying this, and I feel like I'll have more thoughts once I finish it. But I really like the magic system and like all the different like creatures that are involved, and how Sylvia kind of sees them as more like, she sees the humanity in them in ways that other people don't, specifically Lorelai. And so she like communicates with them where others try to just like defeat them. And I really like that aspect of her personality. And we're already seeing them start to like soften to each other and realize they don't really hate, well, Sylvia doesn't hate, she's just kind of there. But Lorelai is realizing that she doesn't hate Sylvia. She's realizing she hates what Sylvia stands for, or what she thinks she stands for. So I'm really enjoying this. But bigger news, we are down to 10 hours, 30 minutes, and 33 seconds. Oh, look, you can see yourself there, which means I read for about 3 hours today, which is about what I've been doing every day. But that means that tomorrow we will get down into the single digits. That is correct. I was hoping this wouldn't take me more than a week, but it's definitely going to take me over a week. I don't realize, like, I feel like you don't realize how long 24 hours truly is until you have to do something for 24 hours, and then you're like, oh, yeah, that's taking a lot longer than I thought, especially because I'm reading about like the same amount I normally would, maybe like a little bit more, but I'm not like forcing myself to read when I don't want to read, you know? Like, I'm picking up a book when I want to read, and so that's what's also taking it a little bit longer. If I sat down and was like, okay, I'm reading all day today, then I would have like probably been done by now. But because I'm just picking up books when I want to read and not when I'm forcing myself to read, one, I'm having a better time with the books that I'm reading because I'm not forcing myself to read, and two, it's just taking me a lot longer to get through it. But I'm not mad at it because I'm still reading a lot and getting a lot read, and I'm enjoying my experience, and I think that's the key. So I will update you again in the morning, or probably I'll update you when I finish A Dark and Drowning Tide with better thoughts and probably a more cohesive summarization of the book. But I will see you tomorrow. Good morning. We have officially made it into the single digits. That is, we still technically have 10 hours, but looking at it, it's single digits, okay? This morning I read for like another 30 minutes to get us down to 10 hours, and I feel like every clip I'm like, this is taking so much longer than I thought it was. I feel like I'm driving myself insane. But still really enjoying A Dark and Drowning Tide. They just kissed for the first time. Ooh, girls. Anyway, I'm really enjoying this. I think in my last clip I was wondering if it was like inspired by anything. I don't know if it's like German folktale. That would be my best guess, because a lot of the names, like Sylvia, her last name is Von Wolf, but it's spelled W-O-L-F, but the W is pronounced as V, which is German. That's my guess, but I also think it's probably just a lot of like made up stuff. But it's very complex with like the magic system. It's like complex but also simple, if that makes any sense, because it's like everyone just pulls their, like, if they can do magic, they pull their magic from like the aether in the water, I guess. But there's also all of these like little like creatures that all have like different folklore behind them. I confirmed Sylvia is a naturalist and Lorelai is a folklorist. So Sylvia goes around and like talks and connects with like all these different little creatures, and Sylvia like collects the stories, like the folklore of them. So them working together is really very cutesy. But yeah, so they're just like going on this trip to try and find this Oopspring, I think is how they pronounce it, of like, it's like the most magical river, like the seed of all power. Things are going very much wrong. So I'm really enjoying it. Like everyone is a suspect. Everyone is like very sketchy. Even like Sylvia and Lorelai, even though we're only getting Lorelai's perspective, I would also like to get Sylvia, but like it is what it is. I feel like I've read a character like Sylvia before, and so I was like trying to figure out where, and it's because she's very similar to Lucy from Lucy Undying, because they both are like very like whimsical, seemingly naive, good-natured characters, but when you really get to know their past, like they went through a lot and are just still clinging to like their whimsy as like a form of self-defense, and I really like that type of character, honestly, so I'm really enjoying this. But for this 24-hour challenge, I recognize that this vlog is probably not the most entertaining at this point, because all you're getting is me being like, I've read, we're still going, because I genuinely did not realize that this would take so long. Like 24 hours in theory, like yeah, that's a long time to do anything for 24 hours. I still have 10 hours left and I've already read almost 3 full books. Right. So we're gonna try and make this more entertaining throughout, but like I really don't know how, because it's also not like I can like change up the like environment. This is where I read. If I'm reading, I'm sitting in this chair. If I'm sitting in this chair, I'm reading. So you're not gonna get like a different background, you know? And anything I do to like try and make it more entertaining would be inauthentic. So not really sure what I'm gonna do about this, because this vlog is genuinely taking so long. I started it Sunday night. It is now Friday, and it will continue probably into next week because I still have 10 hours left. Right. So sorry it's not the most entertaining, but I'm reading a lot of really great books. Cold Eternity was kind of a flop, but I finished it at like the very beginning of the vlog, so you know. And then The Center, 5 stars. Lucy Undying, 4.5 stars. This I'm also really enjoying. I don't know how many stars it'll be because I still have like 100 pages left, but I'm really enjoying it. So at the very least, I know my taste, you know, and I'm reading really great things and I'm having a great time reading. Oh, I will say, while I've been listening to the audiobooks, not for this, because I've been reading it while listening to the audiobook, because of all like the different like terms for things, it's just helpful for me to like actually look at them. But when I was listening to other books, I was working on my reading journal, so let me give you a little sneak peek. First, I have this page that just has like my bookshelves, and they're color coded based on the format that I read them in, and then these are my goals. I put them in this cutie little envelope. And then I have this page that's all my library books and like if I've read them and then if I want to own them. And then I did like stamps at the bottom. I think that's cutie. This is my favorite page. I did my TBR cart. So if you've seen any of my reader on haul, I think there's only 2 so far, my reader on haul videos, but all of the books that are in that challenge I put on this little cart, and I do plan on adding more as I read through those because I have a lot of books to read. And then I color code them based on if I've read it and I'm keeping it, or if I've read it and I'm getting rid of it. And then over here I have just like a little tracker of different things. So and it's like all the months. So if I read nonfiction that month, and then the number of books I read, how many pages I read, how many 5 stars I had, how many physical books, how many physical and audio, how many ebooks, how many ebook and audio, and then how many owned books I read. And then I added like these little paper pieces, real cutie. And then here I have all of my anticipated releases for the year. So drawing these boxes took forever. So I got a lot of audiobook listening in while I was doing this. And then I stamped out the month. This also took forever because each individual letter is like an individual stamp. So it took forever. But then I added in all of the books that are coming out in that month that I'm excited about. And then I can like highlight them once I've read them. And then I have this page, which these are all of the sapphic books that I've read already this year. So I'm going to need to add some kind of like tip in, I think they call it in the journaling community, to be able to add more, because we're only in May and I only have this much space left. So there's that. And then all of the nonfictions that I'm reading are going over here. And then I have my January title page. I don't know what to put on this side, if anything. So that one's blank for now. And then I just did this last night. I put in all of the books that I read in January, and then my star rating and like a little blurb about each of them. So that's where I'm at with that. It is taking me, again, so much longer than I thought it would, but that's the thing for the vlog. Everything's taking longer than I thought it would. So that's where I'm at today. I'm hoping to get us down to 9 hours and finish my book today, which I do not think will be a problem at all. So really looking forward to that. It is a Friday, and then over the weekend, I find that I don't read as much on the weekends as I do during the week. So we'll see if that holds true through this vlog. But I'm just going to keep reading, keep chipping away at these 24 hours, and get back to you later. It is once again the evening, and I have finished A Dark and Drowning Tide. My official rating is a 3.5, and I wrote my full review for like Goodreads Story Graph and another app that's like just for me, and I feel like I'm going to do that moving forward, like write my review before updating, because now I feel like I have all my thoughts in order. And my official rating is a 3.5 because I really enjoyed it. It was a very fun, whimsical story, and I loved the world building and like the magic system, but everything else kind of felt lackluster to me. The plot was like fine, right? I feel like there was like a lot of buildup to things that like could have been really cool and could have been done really well, and then we just like didn't do any of those things, which is like totally fine. That's not the direction the author wanted to go in, but it left me feeling a little hollow, I guess. Like the story felt like it could have been something, and then it wasn't. Like it fell flat, and the characters, like I enjoyed them, and then all of a sudden they had like a switch up. Like Lorelai is such like a hater of a character, right? She goes from having so much hatred in her heart to being like, wait a minute, that's not hatred, it's love. And I'm like, girl, no, it is not. So it really went, like, in my review I was like, she went from like having like just pure hatred to Lorelai to like hunger for her, and like that's fine. I like a enemies to lovers story sometimes if it's done well. This did not feel like it was done, especially because then Sylvia was like, I've loved you this whole time, you were just too blind to see it, because everything that she did that was like her having a crush on her, she interpreted as her hating her, which is like fine, but it really went from like I hate you with every fiber of my being to I can't live without you. And it was like, you know, yeah, didn't love that. And then like the way it ended, I was like, I feel like we had so much build up and like so much happened, and now the end is just like, here you go, that's just how we're ending. And I was like, oh, okay. Like there was so much betrayal and like plot twist and like so much power gained, and in the end they were just like working in an office. That's what it felt like. So I was like, you know, like I enjoyed my reading experience. I did. It was very whimsical. The writing was really great, but I said in my review, had the writing and the world building and the magic system not been so enjoyable for me and like so whimsical, I probably would have DNF'd it because of the plot and the characters, because I just didn't love them. I really liked Sylvia. She's very whimsical. She like really sticks to her values, and like so did Lorelai, but I really preferred Sylvia as a character, and we didn't get Sylvia's perspective, and I think I would have enjoyed that if we had gotten Sylvia's POV, but we didn't, so it's a 3.5. But all that being said, we have officially finished the third full book of this vlog, and we still have 8 hours and 47 minutes. So we have to build a new TBR. Now, I will say, I am very happy with the progress that I've made. I mean, I've read for so many hours already, like that's crazy. And I was watching today, oh, I forget the channel name. I'll put the channel name here because I, for some reason, like really cannot remember, but she just did a 24-hour reading vlog where she did something very similar to what I did, where she was like genuinely trying to read for that long, but then also she like combined how I'm doing and how it's traditionally done. And she even said in her video, she was like, I'd rather like call it quits here when I've already read for like 12 hours and like finished a lot of really great things that I loved than force myself to keep going and like not enjoy what I'm reading. And that's exactly how I feel, where I feel like if I had finished this book and I had been like, I'm done, I don't want to read anymore, I would call it here because I've read already so many hours. But because I'm still really enjoying this and having a really great time, and like I really enjoy seeing like the time tick down, I'm going to keep going, and we're going to see how long this takes. I wish it wasn't taking me like a full week, because today's Friday, so, and I started Sunday night, so it probably will take me a full week, which I don't want to say it feels like cheating, because like there's no rules for this, you know, like I completely made this up, so there is no cheating, but it feels a little like it's 24 hours and why did it take me a full week? But at the same time, it's 24 hours. Like I have other things that I'm doing in my day, you know? So I'm still having a wonderful time. I don't know exactly what I'm going to read next because I'm out of audiobooks. I've listened to all the audiobooks that I have through my library right now. So we shall see what happens next. I think what that means is that I'm going to be reading more time but getting less read, because I can read just a little bit faster with an audiobook because I feel like it really locks me in and like keeps me focused, where when I read with just my eyes kind of bounce all over the page and it's harder for me to just like stay focused, which is why I like having the audiobooks, because it really helps me like lock into the story and like stay focused, where I think you might even be able to tell when I read without an audiobook, when I do like my time lapses of me reading, you can see my eyes kind of bopping all over the place, because sometimes it's just, especially if like what I'm reading is like not the most interesting, I'm like, okay, I'm ready for more, and it's hard for me to like stay on where I am, where with the audiobook my eyes can bounce, but like what I'm hearing is keeping me where I am. So that's that. Also, I don't think I'm getting sick, but I do think my allergies are acting up because my throat is like all scratchy and my nose is running. So hoping that it's not worse tomorrow. But I also know how my allergies go and my throat's gonna feel not necessarily worse, but different every single day until it goes away, and my nose is just gonna keep dripping. Anyway, I'm going to gather the rest of the books that I have that I can read for, like, put a little TBR together, and we will see where I end up going. Okay, these are the 3 things that I think I will be going towards next. So we have Exquisite Ruin by Adrienne May, and this is the adult debut from one of my favorite authors. She's previously only written YA fantasy, and this is like an adult romantasy. So I am interested in reading this. I just don't know if I'm in the mood for romantasy. Also, it's like a retelling of the Minotaur myth where like she gets trapped in the maze with the Minotaur. Interesting. And then I have Victorian Psycho, which is about this woman who's just like a psycho. She moves into this house to be like the governess, but then she starts kind of like messing up this family. Like the husband is like flirting with her and the wife doesn't like it, but because the wife doesn't like it, she like encourages it. So she's just kind of a nasty woman, and I'd love to read about that. And then finally I have The Unworthy. Oh, this is by Virginia Fato, and I have The Unworthy by Augustina Bazterrica, and I don't know if this one's translated or if she wrote this one in English, because her other book, Tender is the Flesh, I did read. Oh, translated by Sarah Moses. This is about like a holy order, some type of religion in this like apocalyptic world, but like specifically women. And that's kind of all I need to know. Both of these are very short, and then this one's a little bit longer. So I don't know what I want to start next, but I won't be starting it till tomorrow morning because it is like 11:13 p.m. and I'm ready for bed. So especially because if I am getting sick, which I'm not, but even with my allergies, I want to make sure I'm getting enough sleep, right? So I'll be starting one of these tomorrow, and realistically, I will probably end up reading all 3 of these because these 2 are very short. And I find that if Augustina Bazterrica's writing in here is similar as to how it was in Tender is the Flesh, this will not take me very long to read. And then this one just is not a very long book. It's paper in there. Interesting. So I don't imagine this will take me. How long is this? Because the pages feel really. Oh, there's an illustration. 192 pages. So yeah, not very long at all. And then Tender is the Flesh is only 175. So these 2 are very short. And then this one's probably like a 300, like regular length. 371, yeah. So I'm thinking that I'll pick up one of these. I'm thinking The Unworthy because I do really want to read this, and then this, and then one of the shorter ones, and hopefully that'll bring us to the end. If not, I'll definitely be getting to these 2 though, for sure. For sure. So tomorrow I will be starting The Unworthy, and I'm actually really excited for this. Okay, well, that is all from me for right now. I'm hoping that with these 3, that'll get us through, because the other 2 books I have from the library are things that I have planned for other vlogs and other vlogs that I want to get started. So really hoping that these 3 carry us out, you know? But if they don't, I can always figure something else out, because the other 2 that I have are like I got specifically for other vlogs. I'm really excited for that vlog too. So hoping that this gets us through, and I feel like it should. We have like a little over 8.5 hours. I think we can do it. So that is where I'm going to leave you tonight, and then tomorrow I'll come back and hopefully start and finish this tomorrow. I feel like I can do that. So that's what you have in store for you tomorrow. Hello, it is now Saturday. I don't know if you can tell by my voice, but I do feel worse than I did yesterday. However, I'm pretty sure it is just allergies. So I haven't really read a whole lot today, but here's the thing. I feel awful. So I'm going to read now, but what I've been doing all day is working on my reading journal like you saw in that last clip. So I have done my January spread. Let's do it this way. I've done January, and then January's wrap up. I did February, and then all the books, and then February's wrap up. This is like one of my favorite ones. I love how this turned out. And then I did March. I also love March. I need to figure out what to put on this side of the page. I'm not entirely sure yet. And then I did March's books, and then March's wrap up. I have to print out another copy or another picture of the Ashfire King, because I don't have another one for my favorite book. But I also really love how this turned out. Like, this is so cute. So that's where I'm at with that.
And I've been having a lot of fun doing that, and it's really been taking my mind off of how awful I feel. But this morning, I was really struggling to sleep, and I woke up at like 8:30 and was like, I cannot stay up because I will be in such a terrible mood the rest of the day, because that's not enough sleep for me, especially if I didn't go to bed till like 11:30. So I read 20 pages of The Unworthy, which was about like 20 minutes of reading, and then got tired enough that I went back to sleep. Slept for like another maybe 2 hours, but like not good sleep. And then I've just been journaling all day because like I need to do something that's like active with my hands to get my mind off of it. But I did a lot of pages today, so now I'm going to be going back to reading. So this, we are following our main character, who we don't really have a name for yet, and she's living in this like convent with all of these other girls, and they are the unworthy, but they're like working towards being like the enlightened or the chosen. And we're not entirely, I don't know what the difference between those two is yet, but I'm also only like 20 pages in. So there's like a lot of like really harsh like physical punishments, and it's just like, it's very fascinating. Like the outside world seems to be like completely havoc ridden, and so like they don't let strangers in, and it's like I'm just really interested in like the religion that they seem to be following. And our main character seems to like enjoy inflicting these punishments on people, and like there's this other character who I guess has like the best ideas for punishment, and she's like, I'm always so jealous of her. And I'm like, oh, okay. So also there's no chapters in here, it's just broken up by like these like page breaks, like that's it. And the writing is very like choppy, doesn't feel like the right word because it doesn't read choppy, but it's very much like a this type thing, and I'm really enjoying it. But I also wonder how much of the writing and like the style of it is Augustina Baztarica's, like the authors, and how much is the translator. Because I was thinking like in Spanish, I took several years of Spanish through middle school, high school, and then college, and in Spanish, like the way the words are arranged in sentences is very different than how we do it in English, because like the apostrophe to show like ownership doesn't exist in Spanish. I don't know if she writes in Spanish, this is just my connection here. So you have to like completely rearrange the order that you put the words in sentences, which completely changes like structural format of sentences. So I'm wondering how much of like the actual writing style and the format is the author and how much is the translator translating it into English. So I'm really curious to know. She's from Buenos Aires, so I don't know if that means that she's writing in Spanish. Oh, Spanish language publication. Okay, so there we go. I wonder if, yeah, that has something to do with it, but I'm really enjoying it, so I'm going to continue reading, start my timer, and get back into it. Hello, it is 11:44 p.m. and I have just finished The Unworthy by Augustina Baztarica. I am not entirely sure how to discuss my thoughts on this. It is written from the perspective of our main character, whose name we never learn, and it's her writing in like her like journal, just like she's writing her life story and like telling us about it so that her experiences aren't for nothing, and so that like she leaves a mark behind on the world. And I really loved it. I think I feel like I started to get like emotional towards the end, but I don't know how much of that, like I felt like tears prickling in my eyes, but I don't know how much of that was me genuinely feeling emotional versus my allergies. So can't really tell, but I really liked it. It's really about how religion mistreats women and how like women feed into the idea of religion, because in this religion, like this like sisterhood, there's the unworthy, well it's like the servants, the unworthy, and then there's other tiers that I'm not exactly sure how they're ranked, but there's the enlightened, the chosen, minor saints, and then the something with the aura. There's a lot of different like upper level people, and so the unworthy they're all women too, and they are just like vying for the day that they get to become enlightened and get to become one of the chosen or like one of the higher level people, and then the servants like serve them. And then there's the superior sister who's like in charge, and she's like incredibly harsh and always carries around a whip and is just like always ready to like torture someone. And then above them is like him, like they only ever refer to him as he, capital H obviously, and he is the only man, and I want to say they worship this man, but like he is the like highest power in this religious order, which even reading it I was like, of course it would be like all of these women, and then it's the one man, and that's who like they're looking up to and who they're like taking their words from. So there's that. But like it's really just about like religious violence, specifically against women, and it is incredibly violent. There are so many scenes of like torture and death and dying and all horrible ways of dying. And we also get little glimpses of our main character's past in like the outside world before she came to the sisterhood, and that broke my heart. She had this like little traveling companion, and at first I thought it was just like another like little girl with her. It was a cat. Absolutely devastating. And it's just about like violence against women and how it takes so many different forms and how women are like taught to just like take it. I really think that there's a lot of messaging in here, and it's not even like, I don't want to say it's heavy-handed, but it's also not like undercover. Like, it's very clear, it's very overt what the messaging here is, but there's so much like beautiful writing and like just like wonderful quotes in here, and also a beautiful sapphic relationship that will break your heart. I really feel like there's so much good in this book that is surrounded by so much awful and violence. I really liked it. And then I was reading reviews after just to see what other people had thought of it, knowing that like I really enjoyed it and it really worked for me. A lot of the reviews that were like, a lot of the 5-star reviews that I was looking at were in Spanish. So I'm wondering if a lot of people who love this read it originally in Spanish, and so it worked better for them than other like English language readers. And then a lot of 1-star reviews were just like, I didn't get it. Like, it just, I don't understand why this was written. And I was like, I do. Like, I clearly see. And I remember seeing, before I read it, like a few like months ago at this point, I feel like I saw an interview with the author where she was talking about like religious trauma and like growing up in like a religious school and how that like just really shapes you as a person. And as someone who grew up in like a private Catholic school, I felt so much of this. Obviously not like the torture or anything, but this feels like it was written for other girls who had bad experiences with religion in any capacity, because I remember, and it has like such a feminist lens to it without, I don't know, there's just something about this that really worked for me. And I just remember being in school and being like, I don't understand why women aren't allowed to be priests, because I grew up Catholic, and I was like, I don't understand why like women can't be held to this like high position. Why are only men allowed to be here? And why are only men allowed to like lead us in this prayer? And why are we praying only to a man? You know, so like it was a lot of that, and I felt that in this book. So if you have any religious trauma or you grew up in a Catholic school, I think this one might work for you if you can handle like just the incredible violence of it. But this was so amazing, and it's like, I don't know if it's just the time that I'm reading at, or like not the time of the day, but like the time in my life that I'm reading it, where I'm like reflecting back on religion and how we're kind of seeing it. Also, it was like in a post-apocalyptic world where like they mention AI and how they like shut everything down in case AI was like going to take over, and how everything just became awful, and like climate change and everything. And like, I just feel like this is like the perfect time to read this, and so it was like published at the perfect time. I don't know, something about this just like really worked for me, and I feel like I'm gonna be thinking about it for like a long time. I also think that it's fascinating that our main character and like her driving force is like this sapphic relationship, and how she cares so much for this other woman within the church, and how they like care so much for each other, and like them caring for each other and wanting to see the other safe is what led to like the ultimate downfall of this religion. And like, I don't want to spoil anything about it, but the way it ends is like there's like hints of what's actually happening here, and then when you actually see it in the end, it's like heartbreaking, but at the same time it's like, finally, like we're opening our eyes to this. But even like as they're trying to escape in the end, because obviously that's what they're gonna try and do, you see other women there like trying to stop them and trying to like keep them there, because to them like this is what you should strive for, like this is everything that you could ever want in life. Why would you ever try and escape? Like, this isn't bad, this is what we're made for. And I think that that really just, yeah, that did it for me. I do think this is going to be a 5-star. I really do, which is really fascinating, because Tender as the Flesh like did not work for me. I really didn't like it. Like, I enjoyed the writing, didn't love the plot. So interesting that then this worked so perfectly for me. So I really think that's a sign to just give authors a second try. But yeah, I really like this. Also, this cover, oh, okay, reflection. I don't really know how to give you a good view, but like, okay, anyway, I really like the cover, and I really like this image on the back here. So I think I might be needing to buy myself a copy of this, because I really liked it. But anyway, as for our actual reading challenge here, we are down to 6 hours and 22 minutes. That is right. So that's like 2 more days, and we can be done with that. I'm obviously not reading anymore now. I'm gonna go to bed right after I'm done filming this clip. But yeah, this was so wonderful. And the thing is, like, I thought I was going to enjoy it because of like the religious aspects. It also kind of felt a little bit like The Handmaid's Tale. A little, and I don't think that's like a far off comparison to make because a lot of things are very similar. But yeah, and I haven't read The Handmaid's Tale, but this just, it feels very similar. I've seen a few episodes of the show. I don't like watching violence against women like that. Like, I don't want to put myself through that. But this, didn't love the violence against women either, especially because it's being like perpetrated by another. This just like has a lot of thoughts being provoked in my head. And I think this also really worked for me because I have done research and I'm really interested in the phenomenon of like aggressively conservative women and how they like self-censor and then also censor other women and how they like take that out on other women. So this, I think, just really like fits into like my niche feminist interests. So I really enjoyed this. This is a 5-star. I don't see how it could not be. I'm gonna sleep on it though, just to make sure that there's nothing that like comes to mind that I'm like, you know. So I will sleep on it, especially because it's so late and I'm allergy riddled, but I'm going to sleep on it. But I do think this is a 5-star, which is crazy because then we'll have 2 5-stars in this vlog. So yeah, wow, I really love this. People say that they like didn't get anything out of it and they didn't see why this book was written and like they could see what she was trying to do but it didn't work. I'm like, no, this worked for me. And I think that's like the beauty of reading, is that so many people can all read the same book and everyone will get something a little bit different out of it. And I just think that that's wonderful. So yeah, I really liked this. This really, really worked for me. And I read it all today. So, and that's another reason why I feel the need to sit on it. Sometimes when I read books all in like one go or in one day, I feel like I have only good things to think about it, or like my opinions are just like overwhelmingly in one lane and not as varied as they typically are. So I am gonna sleep on this, but I do think this is a 5-star and I do want to own a copy, whether it says it's a 5 or not. We'll be owning a copy. So that means we only have like 2 more days of reading, which will bring us to like Monday, which is like 8 days for this vlog. But I think that also I watched another vlog today. I have a lot to say tonight. From Gabby. I don't know her actual channel name. Gabby's Reading, maybe? I don't know. Gabby, another booktuber here. And she was doing a challenge where she was doing like a random number generator, picks how many hours she has to read a day. And she got one that was 8 hours. And she was talking about how like she did it, but she didn't want to have to read any more than that because then she started to like not enjoy reading and she like felt burned out from it. And I think that's why I'm so happy that I'm doing a challenge this way, because then I'm reading like, yes, more than I normally would, but like on my own terms and when I want to, so that I'm really enjoying reading. And I like that I'm like prioritizing reading, but I'm not forcing myself to read literally all day. So I really am enjoying doing the challenge this way. I was a little like upset with myself at first for how long it was taking me, but at the same time, like I've read 4 full books for this video already, and I normally would not have read that much. So clearly I am prioritizing reading. I'm just also enjoying other things as well, you know, because if I had sat down and like forced myself to read through like a full like 24-hour period, I would not have enjoyed literally anything that I read, because I would have been like, I don't want to be reading right now. I want to be journaling or watching YouTube or doing literally anything else. So I'm really glad I'm doing it this way. And I think it's just giving me like a better appreciation for like how much of my life I spend reading and how much of my life I spend absorbed in other stories. And I'm really having a wonderful time with it. And it's also just fun to see kind of like how fast I can read. Like with this, I was reading about a page a minute, which is crazy. So it's just fun to like see things like that. I also just like love stats. So like I love like only about reading though. I took stats in high school, hated it, but like reading stats, I absolutely love. So I'm just having so much fun with this. And like I said, I felt a little at the beginning like I was like cheating by doing it like this, but at the same time, I feel like I am having such a wonderful time and I'm genuinely like loving everything that I'm reading and having a wonderful time. So I'm really glad I'm doing it like this. And if you are watching and you are a booktuber and you're planning or thinking about possibly doing a 24-hour reading challenge, I highly recommend doing it like this, because yes, then it takes longer to film, but if you have the time to do it, I much more recommend doing this. I obviously haven't done it the other way to know to compare, but this is just so luxurious, I feel like is the word that I have, because then it's like I'm taking my time with everything that I'm reading, but I'm also still reading so much more than normal, and I'm having a really wonderful time with everything. And I don't feel forced to read when I don't want to. So that's a lot of thoughts for right now, but sometimes I get like so many thoughts at night, especially because like right before I go to bed, just so many thoughts. So glad I'm sharing them with you. We'll see how much this actually makes it into the video, but those are my thoughts for tonight. I am going to sleep on The Unworthy and then get back to you in the morning with what I decide to read next, because my options are Exquisite Ruin or Victorian Psycho, and I'm not sure which one I want to go with next. So I will see you in the morning with, unfortunately, more thoughts and more books. Good morning. Today is Sunday. A lot has happened this morning. Okay, last night as I was falling asleep, I just kept thinking about this and how like perfect it was for me and how symbolic it was of like so many things and like so many feminist struggles and just like struggles of women. Just like it worked so perfectly for me, and I can see why it wouldn't work for everyone, but for me, I absolutely ate it up, and I will be purchasing a copy because I love this. Like, I want to annotate it so badly. But this is a 5-star. I absolutely love this. Like, I feel like I have so many thoughts about this that I could make it like its own video. So that might be coming. But then, as I said last night, my two options were Exquisite Ruin and Victorian Psycho of what to read next. And I was thinking, I was like, this sounds more intriguing to me at the moment, but also like I do really want to read this. I have started it. Okay, so you know I picked this because I was really like, I could start this and finish it and probably still have time left, and I don't really want to do that. Also, I feel like, not that they'd be like similar or the same at all, but I feel like there's like more in common here than there is here. So I decided to go with this for like a little mixing it up moment. And also I know I can probably finish this and then maybe still have a little bit of time left and then start this at least, where if I read this, I'd finish it and then have to start this and then not be able to finish it in this vlog. So I started this, and to be totally fair, I did not really know anything about this other than the author. Adrian May is a pen name for A.M. Strickland, or A.M. Strickland could also be a pen name, I'm not sure. But A.M. Strickland wrote In the Ravenous Dark and A Court of the Undying Seasons, and I love those books. Those are both like YA, sci-fi, fantasy. Absolutely love them. And this is her first adult foray. And I knew it was romance and that it was going to be like kind of like a darker romance, but that's all I knew. And then eventually I came to know that it was about a girl sorceress stuck in this maze with this like demon guy. And I was like, oh, okay. So started reading it, and there was a content warning page. And this is how long the content warning is, and I'm going to read this to you. This book is a fantasy intended for adults only. Reader discretion is advised since the following pages contain explicit sex, violence, mild gore/body horror, attempted rape, past, parent death, past, off-page, animal injury, not death, abduction/captivity, self-harm, only for magical purposes, and various kinks and fetishes in a fantasy setting, including consensual non-consent, dominance and submission, sadomasochism, erotic degradation/humiliation, primal play, choking, gagging, rope bondage, spanking and other impact play, blood play, needle play, foot fetishization, monstrous anatomy, and raw/unprotected sex. All characters depicted are adults, and the activities depicted are not realistic representations of safe sexual activity or risk-aware consensual kink/BDSM. What have I gotten myself into? Okay, I read that and I was like, what am I reading? And the thing is, I was reading it and I was like, because a lot of those things are things that you would see in other dark romances, but the foot fetishization, I was like, what? I have never once in my life heard or seen or even like heard of foot fetishization being in a book. What is happening in here? So I did start reading, because then I was just like so confused, and I was like, how did I not realize how explicit and graphic this is before picking it up? And I was talking to my brother about it, and he goes, and the people at the library know you checked that out. I was like, okay, come on now. But so far we follow Sadare, I think is, I don't have the audiobook for this, and their names are things that I would like to have the audiobook for. Sadare, like the little thing over the E, and then Daesra, Daesra, as like the male main character, and he's like a demigod kind of looking like a minotaur type deal, and she is like a sorceress, but she does not remember anything, and then he does remember, and he's like supposed to be helping her, and they have to get to the end of this maze in order to get some kind of reward, and they like have to work together because he's kind of like bound to her, but she remembers literally not a single thing. So he's kind of like helping her a little, but he clearly like hates her, and the only thing she remembers about him is that she hates him too. So a lot of hate happening, but he's also kind of like teaching her how to use her magic, and like they're trying to work together a little bit to get through this maze because they have to rely on each other. And that's about as far as I am. We had like one flashback scene to her life before the maze. I don't know. Nothing so far has fit any of those content warnings, but I also am only 50 pages in, so I'm giving myself full permission to DNF this, because like I don't mind spicy scenes in books, but I don't love them most of the time. Usually I just like skim through them, but this, So, but I'm also wondering if a lot of that is going to be in like a sexual manner, because her magic, she relies on pain in order to utilize her magic, hence the like self-harm only for magical purposes, because she like has to like dig her nails into her arm or like tie her arm up really tight in order to feel pain to then access her magic. So I don't know how much of that will actually be sexual, but also I know that it's like a dark romance now. So but yeah, I don't know, but I am giving myself full permission to DNF, just because this is not something I would pick up if it was not for the author. The author is the full reason I picked this one up. So we'll see how this goes. But that being said, I did read this morning, and so we are down to 5 hours and 30 minutes, and I'm quite excited. I'm hoping to read for another hour and a half, 2 hours today, and see, like, I want to get far enough in here where I can figure out if it's something that I want to continue with, because the plot is like genuinely intriguing, because like they're in this maze, and the maze is like quite magical, and like a lot of things are happening within the maze, and we're like trying to figure out, like with our main character trying to figure out like how she ended up here, because clearly we know that like she made some kind of a deal or like a bargain to get put here, because at the end there's like unimaginable power waiting for her, but they don't really know why they're here, who put them here, what's at the end of the maze. They just know that they have to get out. So I'm really enjoying like the actual plot. I'm just, you know, it does feel like it has like very like dark undertones. Like there's just genuinely like so much animosity between these two characters, and the writing is exactly what I've come to know and love from this author. So like I'm enjoying that aspect. I'm just a little worried of what's to come. So stick around for that. I know this has been a long vlog, but we're going out with a bang, evidently. So I'm just gonna keep reading, see what happens here. But also like sprayed edges, and they're like metallic of the maze. Like it's a really pretty book. Also, again, with the cover, stunning. So I'm just gonna keep reading, see what happens. If it gets a little too much for me, I'll probably skim through some of those scenes, and then I might end up putting this down, but we'll have to see. So I'm gonna keep reading. Hello, it is significantly later. I have made significant progress. I am on page 237. So really have made it far, and I'm really quite enjoying it. I'm really enjoying the characters and seeing them, because like we're getting them in the maze, like trying to get out of the maze obviously, and figuring out like what their purpose is in the maze, but then we're also getting like flashback scenes of them before they were in the maze, and Sadare, our main character, does not remember anything before other than the flashbacks that she's getting. So she's like trying to reconcile the person that she is currently and then the person that she was, and realizing like the person that she was like an awful person, but she's so much more compassionate in like our present timeline. And then the male main character is also realizing that like he was in love with her as she was, but he also loves her now as she is, and seeing that she's so much more compassionate. And she has this little like animal chimera companion named Pogli, and he is just the cutest thing ever, and I love him so much. And like they're keeping him safe with their powers, absolutely loving that. And he's seeing her like care so deeply for him, the little Pogli guy, and being like, you are not like the person that I thought you were. And so like the hate that they have for each other is like falling away as they like relearn each other and like re-get to know each other, and I'm really enjoying that, honestly. And the magic system is also really interesting, because both of them, so our male main character Desera, as I've been referring to him, well, he's a demigod, but both him and Sadare have to like hurt themselves and then use that hurt to call forth their powers, which is really fascinating. And so all of like the kinky stuff that's happening is happening so that they can use their powers, and like most of the sex scenes are occurring in like the flashback sequences, but they're like adding to the plot. They're not there just for the sake of like being there. They're really like adding to the story, which I'm actually quite enjoying. And they're not like super long or gratuitous. They're mostly like 3 to 4 sentences, and then the plot continues, and like the plot is flowing through those scenes as well, so it's really not that awful. And the foot fetish thing, he was just sucking on her toes a little, which was still freaky, but it was not nearly as bad as I thought it was gonna be. So I'm surprisingly having like a really great time with this, and the writing and the world building is very similar to like the Minotaur myth in like very small aspects, but it's also exactly what I've come to expect from this author in her YA writings. So I'm really having actually a very good time with this, much more than I thought I would, mainly because like the content warnings made it seem like it was going to be so much more graphic and like dark than it really is, because it's really just about these two like relearning each other, and like, yes, they're fighting like really scary monsters, but also like they're so like tender with each other, and like everything they do is very consensual. Like I'm having a good time with it. Okay, I am. I don't think it's gonna be a 5-star by any means, just because it isn't really like for me, you know. Like, I'm enjoying it, I'm having a really great time, but this isn't just like reading the plot on its own. This is not something I would have picked up if it had not been for the author. And so like I'm enjoying it, but it's not like I'm not loving it, you know. And I think part of my enjoyment is coming from the fact that I really didn't think I was gonna like it. So now that I'm enjoying it in the slightest, I'm like, oh, this is fun. So having a really good time with this. And we have made quite a bit of progress in our time. We are now 3 hours. Yeah, actually under 3 hours. 2 hours and 52 minutes. So I will definitely be finishing this tomorrow, and I will be finishing this tomorrow as well. But I also start my first summer class tomorrow. So I don't imagine that that'll take like too much time, because it'll just be like, hi, I'm Nora, get to know me introduction post and like reading the syllabus. But otherwise, I will just be reading this and finishing it tomorrow, because I'm actually really curious to see how it ends, especially because it is a series. It even says The Labyrinth Book 1. So clearly it's going to be a series, and like right now the only characters we have are our 2 main characters and Pogli, so it's not going to be like an interconnected standalone type deal. So I'm really curious to see how it wraps up in the end, and then if I'm interested to pick up the sequel. So that's where I'm at with that, and I will see you tomorrow for hopefully the final day of this 24-hour challenge. Hey yeah, today's Thursday. We have not talked in 3 days. Yeah, so today's Thursday. I have not read since Sunday, and I actually have good reasons. So you saw me thinking that I had allergies. Yeah, plot twist, I didn't have allergies, but we'll get there. So Sunday, you saw how I was doing. Monday rolls around and I wake up and I'm like, I'm not doing well. I have this like rattling cough in my chest. I'm very phlegmy. I can't breathe. It's a whole big deal. And also, we're getting a new road put in. And so they were here doing construction on it, and they had shut off our water. Okay, but we knew that it was going to go off at some point. We just didn't know when. And there were a whole bunch of people working. So we're like, it'll probably go off today, but like, we're not sure. It's just me and my dad home. He's outside working. I'm in here minding my business. I feel awful. I decide I'm gonna take a hot shower, and like the steam will help. I'll probably just like, I'll feel clean, I'll feel better, and then we can move on. I go to get in the shower. Okay, imagine me there. In the shower, I go to turn on the water. Water doesn't turn on. Does not turn on. So then I'm like, shoot, we have no water. So then I just have to come back and sit here and just be like, oh, I don't know what to do. I feel awful. I can't shower. I can't get any drinks. We have like bottled water, but like I don't want that. I can't use the tap. I can't wash my hands. I can't like I was having a rough time. I also just felt awful. So I called my mom and I'm like, I don't feel well. I think I need to go to the doctor. So I end up going to the CVS Minute Clinic, which the woman there was very nice because I couldn't get an appointment at my actual doctor. So CVS Minute Clinic is where I go. And to me, I think that I have bronchitis at this point because I had it my senior year of high school and it felt similar. The cough sounded kind of the same. So I was like, probably bronchitis. I'll be okay. I get there, she's like, so that's not bronchitis. Like, I can tell with your symptoms, that's not what that is. And so she does a strep test, comes back negative, thank God. But then she's like listening to my lungs and doing all the things, and she like keeps asking me to like take these deep breaths, and I'm like, I'm taking them. I don't know what's going on, but I can tell that like something's not quite right. Pneumonia. Community acquired pneumonia. So I have to get put on antibiotics, and she gives me an inhaler, and she's like, you need to make sure that you're taking this, like, be safe. And I'm like, lovely, okay. So Monday I don't read because obviously, and because then once I got back from the CVS Minute Clinic, that's the water was back on, so I was able to shower that night. And then I was just like, I am exhausted. Like, having to leave the house when you're sick is like one of the worst things ever. So Monday, got nothing done there. And if you notice a lot more cuts in this clip than typically, it's because I am blowing my nose or coughing. So Monday, no reading, and I was not even mad at it because I couldn't even like focus on anything. I was just so like lethargic and felt awful, had like the body shakes, all of the evil things. Tuesday comes and I'm like, okay, I'm doing a little bit better, but Tuesday was probably like, when Monday was definitely the worst, but Tuesday like wasn't good either because I had taken my first dose of the antibiotic. So like I was kind of getting better, but still like that, like couldn't breathe, was just sitting here kind of like, you know, so didn't read anything then either. And it didn't help that I was just like so annoyed that this happened this week and not last week, because this week was the start of my first summer class, and I was like, of course it would happen the week that I actually have things I need to do. Right. So I don't read anything Tuesday either, because I just like could not bring myself to do it. Like genuinely, the thought of picking up my book was like, it felt similar to how I imagined running a marathon would feel. So Tuesday, also a wash. Then yesterday, and I was like, I can do it today. But then I had to actually do my school work yesterday, and that took like everything out of me, truly. So didn't read yesterday either. I really, like, I had woken up with the plan to like get my work done, read my book, finish this vlog, be done. And then I was just exhausted and could not do that. So today, Thursday, I finished my book. Yes, I did. I was finally feeling well enough, rested enough, with enough energy to make progress on things. So my assignment, done. My book, finished. I can actually tell you what I've read and where we're at now. So I finished Exquisite Ruin, and I gave it 3 stars because I enjoyed it for what it was, okay? I will say the content warning in the beginning that I read to you made this feel so much scarier and more extreme than it really was, because yes, all of those things are in here, but usually for like a sentence or two, like nothing over the top and nothing extreme, and it all added to the story rather than just being like sex for the sake of sex. I think I've already said that, but I came to the conclusion, I think about like halfway through this book, that if it had not been for this author, I would not have picked this up, because this is not something that I would typically read. Like the plot in here was not strong enough to carry through for this, in my opinion, because it's truly just them trying to get to the center of this maze and like getting their memories back. That's really all it was. So to me, that was not strong enough to like carry this on its own without the author name, personally. The romance was a lot of it. And so if you're into like a dark romance, I think you might actually really like this. For me, that's just not a genre that I enjoy reading and that I would typically pick up on my own. So yeah, had it not been for this author, I just would not have picked this up. And even if I did to give it a chance, I probably would have DNF'd it because it just wouldn't be for me. But the writing, I really liked the writing. The writing was beautiful. And that's where most of, pretty much all of those stars come from, because I really love this author's writing, and it does translate from young adult to adult. So will I be picking up the sequels in this series? Maybe. I'd be interested to see if we're following the same characters or someone else in this world. I'm fascinated because the way it ends, like technically it could still follow the same 2 characters, but it would be very different, and I'm very curious to see where we go from here. So I will be keeping my eye out for that, but this did just come out like last month, I think. So curious to see where the author goes from here with this series. But yeah, 3 stars. If you're into like a dark romance with really good writing, maybe pick this up. This just wasn't for me. However, that does bring our time quite significantly down. We are now exactly at 1 hour and 1 minute. And I considered just letting that 1 minute run out to be exactly 1 hour, but I said, no, that's cheating. So 1 hour and 1 minute. Obviously, there's not a book that I can finish in 1 hour. So I will be starting Victorian Psycho. And if you want to hear all of my thoughts on this, you will just have to wait till my monthly wrap up or follow me on Goodreads or Storygraph to see my review there. But I will be reading for 1 hour of this book, which I feel like I actually might be able to get like a decent amount into this, because let's see. It is a 192 page book, 192 pages. So I will be starting this. I will not be finishing it in this vlog, but I will be starting it. Again, find my review elsewhere and in later videos, but I will be starting this and finishing this challenge hopefully tomorrow. I don't think it'll happen today, just because like, yes, I'm getting better, but I'm not better yet, you know? And I don't want to like overdo it today because I finished my assignment. I still need to like actually submit it, but I did like finish the writing portion, finished that, have done other things. So I'll probably read for like a little bit today, but I don't know that I'll read for the full hour, especially because it is already 6:30 p.m. So we shall see if I end up doing it. I feel like I will though, just to like move on with my life, honestly, because this challenge has been like hanging over my head all week, and like every day I'm like, I feel deathly ill and can barely get out of bed, but I feel like I need to read. And so like I'm glad that I didn't push myself into reading, especially while I was sick, because I think that also I have a lot of thoughts right now because I haven't talked to you in so long. But I think like had I pushed myself into reading while I was still feeling ill, first of all, would not have enjoyed it. I needed my rest. Second of all, it would have made my reading experience of this so much worse. But I also think that it goes to show how much I didn't love this book, because if I was in the middle of something that I was like really loving and only had like 120 pages left, even if I was feeling like sick, I'd have been like, I can sit here and read. Like I can do that, because I just watch TikToks, honestly. But if it was something I really loved, I would have put my phone down and picked up the book, and I didn't with this. And like coming back to it, I was like, you know, and then finishing it, I was like, yeah, I see why I had, like, was in no rush to pick it up. So those are my thoughts on that and reading while sick. But I will be starting this and updating you when I finish this challenge. However, I'm at the point where I'm like, will I finish this challenge or will this challenge finish me? Yeah, okay. I'll see you. For you in like a few seconds. For me, who knows when. Okay, so we are technically done, but I'm like this close to finishing the chapter, so I'm just gonna finish it. Okay, and just like that, we have come to the end. My, what a challenge, what a time this has been. First and foremost, let's start with Victorian Psycho. I am on page 91, so I read about 90 pages in an hour, which, go me. I'm not really sure what my thoughts are. Like, I don't think I'm enjoying it, but I'm also not enjoying it. We follow this woman who is like a governess for this family, but it's very clear that she does not care for this family and in fact plans to murder them. Yeah, it starts with 3 months till Christmas, and then it even says like in 3 months this whole family will be dead. So like, I'm having a fine time. It's fine. I'm just not loving it, you know? And like, the writing is actually really good. I'm really enjoying the writing. It feels very of this like Victorian time that we're in. I don't know if it gives us a date. It does not say, but it's obviously like the Victorian time period, and it feels very much like I'm writing from the Victorian period, which I enjoy because we're hearing directly from our main character, Winifred Noddy, and like I'm enjoying her voice, but I don't really care for the plot. But I also still have like 100 pages left, so we shall see what happens from there. But you actually won't see unless you read my review on Goodreads or Storygraph or watch my wrap-up video where I will be talking about this. As for the challenge, I don't know if you heard my alarm go off, but I also put a screen recording of the last like minute and a half. We finished it all 24 hours. It took us a very long time, got pneumonia in there, but I have read for the 24 hours. That's very exciting. I am tired. I am going to either continue reading or like I'm gonna get dinner. That's what I'm gonna do. But I will come back tomorrow and do like a full wrap up of my experience with this challenge. I also want to calculate, since I have technically the statistics to figure it out, I want to calculate how long it took me to finish each book, and then I'll also go through the books that I read and what my ratings of them were. But I'm not gonna do that tonight because I'm hungry and tired. And since I submitted my assignment, I have nothing to do tomorrow besides this. So I will see you tomorrow to fully wrap everything up. But just know, I read for the full 24 hours. Go me. I persevered, okay? And I have a lot of thoughts, but I will share them with you tomorrow when I'm feeling more coherent and when we have better lighting. So I will see you tomorrow, which will be the final clip, finally, of this vlog. Hello for the final time of this vlog. Hopefully not for the final time ever, because I hope that if you've made it this far into the video, you come back and watch another one of my videos. I have edited everything that you've seen so far I've put it all together and I've gone through and I have calculated, I've done the math for how long it took me to read each book. So we are going to go through and I'm going to tell you how many pages, what my rating was, and how long it took me to read it. So starting with Cold Eternity, which I don't have because I did have to return it to the library because it was due the day after I read it, that got a 3 stars from me. And I read about 90-ish pages of it in 1 hour and 12 minutes. Okay, then we moved on to The Center. I gave this a 5 star, absolutely loved it, and it is a 275-page novel, and I read it in 3 hours, 26 minutes, and 22 seconds. We're getting like real legit with it. After that, I read Lucy Undying, which got 4.5 stars, 451 pages, and took the longest time to read at 6 hours, 27 minutes, and 16 seconds. Lucy Undying. Then we moved on to A Dark and Drowning Tide, which got 3.5 stars, was 370 pages, and took 4 hours, 7 minutes, and 32 seconds to read. Then we read The Unworthy, which got 5 stars. I think this is my favorite book that I read in this vlog. It was 175 pages and took 2 hours, 25 minutes, and 2 seconds to read. Finally, the final full book that we read was Exquisite Ruin, and it got 3 stars, was 371 pages, and took 5 hours, 21 minutes, and 32 seconds. So those are all of the full novels that I read, but then I also read 91 pages of Victorian Psycho, and it took 1 hour and 1 minute. So that is all of the math number statistics. And looking at this, first of all, go me for putting this all together. Second of all, I think it makes a lot of sense. So a like typical novel, which is like in this case Exquisite Ruin, 371 pages, which is like about the length of most of the books I read, took 5 hours, like 5.5 hours, let's say. And I feel like looking at everything else, that makes sense. For a novel that's like half that length at 175 pages, like The Unworthy, took 2.5 hours, so like 3 hours less. And I think that makes perfect sense for my reading speed. And then our longest book, Lucy Undying, at 451 pages, took 6 hours, so 2 hours more or 3 hours more than a typical length novel. So I feel like these times really like show me how fast I'm reading and how many pages I'm able to read in a certain amount of time. So all in all, we read 5 full novels. I guess one was a novella, but I feel like Lucy Undying being so long kind of, so 5 full novels, and then last 90 pages and the first 90 pages of 2 other novels. So I feel like I honestly had a really great time. Did I get pneumonia in there? Yes. Do I technically still have pneumonia? Yes. Do I think it was this challenge's fault? No. However, I did have like a really great time. I read a lot of great things. My lowest rating was a 3, which like to me isn't a bad rating. It's just also not like a good rating, 3.5 and up is what I consider like good, and then 3 and under to me is like so we didn't have any bad books, and that to me is a win. Also, we read so much. A lot of my library books have been read. I think I only have 2.5 things left to read from the library, so I again consider that a win. If you have made it this far, thank you. Thank you. Also, if you've made it this far, leave the clock emoji down in the comments so that I know you made it this far and I can personally say thank you, and also I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, well, that brings us to the end. We read, I keep saying we because you were here with me for the whole thing, so it does feel like a we, But I read for 24 hours, and in those 24 hours, I read 1,823 pages. That is a lot of pages. So really, I feel like, yes, this was a challenge. Yes, I struggled. Yes, I suffered. Yes, I got pneumonia. However, I read so much, clearly, and had like a really good time with it. I said several times throughout the video that I'm glad I did it this way so that I didn't force myself to read when I didn't want to read, especially because I ended up getting pneumonia. Yeah. So I really, I had a great time, and I do think that sometime in the future, I am going to do the 24-hour challenge the way it is traditionally done, where I stay up for like 24 hours. I will be sleeping in there because obviously, but I will be attempting a new version of the challenge just to see how much I get read. Obviously, it'll be less because I won't be reading for the full 24 hours, but I am really curious to see the experience I have in the 2 different versions of this challenge. And I mentioned this before in the video, but if you are a booktuber or you're looking to start a booktube and you are thinking about doing the 24-hour reading challenge, I highly recommend doing this way. Yes, it takes forever. However, I read a lot more than I would normally. I read a lot of great things, and I had a really great time where I feel like I even had 2 examples throughout this video of when you do it all in one day, you just get burnt out from reading, and I feel like it can really put you in a slump, especially if you're not reading things that you're actually enjoying. So that's where we're at with this. Honestly, I am glad that I did it. I wish that I hadn't gotten pneumonia when I did. You know, obviously I wish I never got it, but I did. So bad timing on that part. But I do think that, like, pneumonia notwithstanding, I had a great time. I read a lot of really great things, and it would have only taken me a week. So Sunday night, well, I guess Sunday night through Monday, it would have taken me to do it, where it took me Sunday night through Thursday night. Yeah, so obviously not ideal, but it would have been different had I started Sunday morning, right? And then not gotten pneumonia and been able to read, which maybe I'll have to try this again at some point, doing it this way when I don't have pneumonia. Would you be interested in that? Would you want to sit through this again? This is a very long video, but I also read so much and had a lot to say about a lot of the things I was reading. So that's where we're at on that. I still have not finished Victorian Psycho. I have not actually read any more. I read a few pages this morning, so now I'm on page 113. But like I said, if you want to see the rest of my thoughts on that, my wrap-up is probably the best place to do that succinctly. So that brings us to the end of this video, and truly thank you so much for being here if you have made it this far. I really do appreciate it. I appreciate you watching all of my suffering and me being like, wow, this is taking a really long time. Yeah, girl, it's 24 hours. Anyway, thank you one more time for being here, and I hope that I will see you in my next video. Bye.